The Mad Medic Reborn, the very first second I transmigrated. The system ordered me to kneel before the female CEO and lick up the spilled bird's nest soup, now mixed with shards of broken glass. The system's cold, synthetic voice buzzed in my brain. Warning, maintain the pathetic simp persona or face lethal lightning punishment. I looked at the expensive Italian leather shoe about to grind into my face and laughed. I was Kieran, the Mad Medic of the Shuro Order. I saved or slaughtered based entirely on my mood. You wanted me to be a dog? In the next heartbeat, I snatched the ankle. Amidst the sickening, wet crunch of snapping bone, I flipped a middle finger to the air. Go ahead, strike me down, because if the lightning doesn't kill me, I'm going to end every single one of them. Flipping the table at death's door in the underworld, at the edge of the river Styx, I stared at the bowl of leafy water in my hand. Instead of drinking, I slammed it directly into the wrinkled face of the ferryman. I don't accept this. I was the chief mad medic of the Shura Order. Getting struck by a freak bolt during my ascension was bad enough, but now I'm forced to read this brain-dead trash novel in the afterlife. Floating in my consciousness was a glowing, neon green book titled, Thought It Was a Second Chance? It's actually the CEO's slaughterhouse. Just moments ago, a garbage underworld system called the Angst Completion Project had forcibly jammed the entire plot into my skull. After reading it, my blood pressure, if I still had any, would have blown the top of my head off. The protagonist was a guy named Caleb Thorne. He possessed an ancient medical legacy, the 9 resurrection needles, and a legendary constitution. With that setup, he should have been a king. Instead, this absolute moron spent 5 years as a live-in nurse for a blind CEO named Victoria Sterling. He emptied her bedpans, scrubbed her carpets, and let her sleazy cousin Tyler kick him like a stray dog. He let a fake gentleman doctor named Julian Vance frame him 1,000 times. The most ridiculous part? To cure Victoria's eyes, this idiot knelt in the snow for days to beg for medicine and even drank toilet water to prove his innocence. In the end, he exhausted his very life force to save her, turning into a withered old man and dying alone on the streets. If it ended there, it would just be a tragedy of a simp. But the epilogue? The epilogue made me want to vomit. Victoria wasn't actually blind. She was practicing a dark, occult art called the Frost Heart Toxin. She knew from day one that Caleb was a miracle worker. She faked the blindness and the fragility just to string him along. Why? Because that toxin required the purest devotion of a solar constitution male to nourish it, followed by absolute despair to harvest its power. Caleb's noble sacrifice was, in Victoria's eyes, just a pig finally getting fat enough for the slaughter. He wasn't her lover. He was her human battery. Ding. Host resentment levels are off the charts, matching the original host state at the moment of death. A cold, mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Congratulations. You have been selected as the replacement for Caleb Thorne. Transmigrate immediately. Follow the plot. Use your love to move Victoria and eventually sacrifice yourself to complete this great, heart-wrenching romance. Great romance, my ass. I snarled, flipping the bird to the void. I kill and save as I please. You want me to be the pig? I'm going to rip the spine out of this story. Binding system. Forced transition initiated. Please note, you must maintain the pathetic simp persona or face lightning punishment. A blinding white light flashed. My last roar echoed. Fine. Send me there. Just pray those people are durable enough to survive me. Caviar and shards crash. The sound of shattering porcelain exploded in my ears, followed by a sharp, stabbing pain in my knees. I snapped my eyes open. Below me was a priceless Persian rug covered in a dark, viscous liquid, high-end caviar and bloodbird's nest soup, now glittering with jagged shards of glass. A flood of memories hit me. This was the classic opening scene. The original Caleb was bringing the soup up for Victoria, but Tyler Sterling had tripped him. Now he was being forced to kneel and lick it clean. Ding! System mission. Kneel immediately. Pick up the glass with your bare hands and apologize to Julian Vance and Tyler Sterling. Reward. Endurance plus 10. There was that annoying voice again. I stayed on the floor, but I didn't move. I looked down at the polished dress, shoe currently grinding into the back of my hand. That was Tyler's foot. He was leaning his weight into it, waiting for me to scream. Well, if it isn't our gold medal Manny. Tyler's arrogant voice drifted from above. What's wrong, Caleb? Cat got your tongue? Finally done digging through the dumpster outside? This was the vintage delicacy DR. Vance brought for Victoria. It's worth $500,000. Even if I sold your organs, you couldn't pay for this. Next to him, Julian Vance chimed in with a faux sympathetic tone. Now, Tyler, don't be so hard on him. I'm sure Caleb Didn't mean it. Even though I had to pull favors from my contacts in Europe to get this. It's a shame Victoria's gift was ruined. I slowly lifted my head. I didn't have the terrified, submissive look of the original Caleb. I narrowed my eyes, activating the talent that had followed my soul, the mutation vision. My sight pierced through Tyler's shoe. It pierced through the delicacy on the floor. I let out a low, cold rasp of a laugh. $500,000. My voice was dry, carrying the chill of a man who had just crawled out of hell. Tyler blinked. What did you say? I surged with power. My wrist flipped, and the hand he was stepping on turned into a vice of steel, locking around Tyler's ankle. I said. I stood up slowly, the force in my grip increasing until the sickening pop-pop-pop of grinding bone filled the room. This crap is just corn syrup, gelatin, and food coloring. $500,000? What currency? Monopoly money. The sound of breaking aff. Let go. You dog. Let go of me. Tyler's face contorted in agony as he hopped on one foot, trying to wrench himself free. Julian's face paled. I'd clearly hit the nail on the head regarding the fake goods, but he pivoted instantly to outrage. Caleb, are you insane? You break a gift and then resort to violence? Kneel. Now. Kneel. I turned my head, my eyes locking onto Julian. It was the look a coroner gives a fresh corpse. Julian flinched, stepping back instinctively. What? What are you doing? Victoria is upstairs. I'm asking you. I ignored the threat entirely. My left hand still held Tyler's leg aloft like a piece of meat. My right hand reached down and plucked the largest, sharpest shard of glass from the rug, the red syrup dripping off it like blood. Was it this foot that tripped me? Julian was stunned. This wasn't the script. This loser was supposed to be a doormat who couldn't even whisper a protest. Not talking. I pulled my lips back in a predatory grin. Fine. I'll ask him. Without warning, I exploded into motion. I yanked Tyler's leg, sent him off balance, and crashing toward me. As his face neared mine, I grabbed a handful of his hair and slammed him downward. I held the shard of glass exactly 0.01 inches from his right eyeball. A drop of the sticky syrup fell into his eye. No, stop, please. Caleb, brother, sir. Tyler stared at the jagged point, and the smell of ammonia filled the air as he wet himself right there on the rug. Which foot? I asked softly, my voice as gentle as a lullaby. The right foot. Tyler sobbed, betraying his own limb instantly. Good. Honesty is a virtue. I nodded once, then delivered a kick. I channeled the Shura internal force. Crack. The sound of the femur shattering echoed through the penthouse. Tyler's expensive trousers crumpled as his knee bent backward at a grotesque 90-degree angle. Ag! A scream like a slaughtered pig nearly took the roof off the villa. Tyler rolled on the floor, clutching his leg. The sound was music to my ears. Warning. Severe deviation from persona. Warning. Host will receive level 1 electric shock punishment. The system shrieked in my head. A bolt of electricity surged through my nerves. The original Caleb would have been foaming at the mouth. I just rolled my shoulders, feeling like I'd just had a particularly vigorous stretch. That's it? That wouldn't even tickle a novice of the Shuro order. I mocked internally. Shut up. Keep nagging, and I'll just kill myself. We both lose. The system went silent. It clearly hadn't programmed a response for a psychopath like me. Julian finally snapped out of his shock. He looked at the screaming Tyler, then at me playing with the glass shard. A flash of desperation crossed his eyes. Caleb, you're dead. You think you can walk away from this? Julian had taken a few years of MMA classes and thought he could handle a malnourished nurse. He roared and swung a high kick at my head. I didn't even blink. As the wind from the kick brushed my nose, I tilted my head an inch. Then, I reached out and caught his wrist. Snap! Another crisp sound. Julian's wrist was twisted into the shape of a bird's claw. Ah! Julian screamed, tried to retreat, but I was already in his space. High-end bird's nest, right? $500,000, right? I grabbed Julian by the throat and slammed him face first into the carpet of glass. The plunger exorcism, don't let it go to waste, doctor. I scooped up a handful of the glass-filled sludge and shoved it toward his mouth. MMPH. Menen. Julian thrashed, his lips sliced open by the shards, blood trailing down his chin. Eat up. It was your gift, after all. Don't leave a single drop. Toxin under the lens. What is that noise? Caleb, have you caused more trouble? A voice as cold as liquid nitrogen drifted down from the second-floor balcony. I let go of the nearly fainting Julian and looked up. Victoria Sterling. She was wearing a black silk robe and her signature oversized sunglasses, a glass of red wine in her hand. Even without her sight, she nailed the Ice Queen persona perfectly. According to the plot, Caleb was supposed to rush to his knees, apologize profusely, and beg for her forgiveness. I just stared at her. My mutation vision cut through the sunglasses and the skin. I saw it clearly. A crystal clear, frost-emanating parasite coiled around her heart. The frost-heart toxin. Right now, it was in a withered, hungry state, its mouth open, waiting for Caleb's submissive love energy to feed. I see. I laughed. Trouble. I stepped on Julian's face, ignoring his muffled groans, and looked up at Victoria. I'm just taking out the trash. These two try to scam you with $5 worth of sugar water. I knew you were blind, but has your brain shriveled up too? The silence in the room was absolute. Even Tyler forgot to scream. Victoria froze. For 5 years, this dog had never dared to speak to her like that. Her face flushed red with a mix of shock and regal fury. What? What did you say? You dare speak to me like that? Butler, where is everyone? Break his jaw. I want him silenced. No one answered. The butler had seen me snap Tyler's leg and was currently hiding in the bathroom calling the police. Nobody's coming to save you. I kicked off the floor, my body blurring like a shadow as I vaulted to the second floor. Sheer footwork. Even in this weak body, I was a god in a world of mortals. Victoria felt a gust of wind, and then a cold, iron-strong hand clamped around her throat. I lifted her off the ground with one hand. Let go. Victoria clawed at my arm, her wine glass smashing on the floor, the red liquid soaking in her silk robe like a bloodstain. Listen, Victoria, I whispered into her ear, my voice sounding like a demon's promise. In this house, money used to be the law, but right now, my fist is the law. I could feel her trembling. It was pure, unadulterated terror. In that moment, my vision caught something fascinating. Because Victoria was experiencing intense fear, the parasite in her chest, starved of the love it needed, was being stimulated by her negative emotions. A stream of pure life force and golden luck was being squeezed out of her, flowing through my arm and into my body. Incredible. This weak, depleted body felt a sudden jolt of vitality. So that was the trick. The more I terrified her, the stronger I got. Oh, who are you? Victoria gasped, her soul shivering. You're not Caleb. I'm your wake-up call. I tossed her onto the bedroom rug like a bag of laundry. Now, go to your room and stay there. If I hear one more word out of you, I'll throw you off the balcony. Victoria scrambled back, her sunglasses lopsided, revealing eyes that were perfectly focused despite her blindness. She wanted to curse me, but one look at my eyes, filled with a level of violence she couldn't comprehend, made her recoil. She was truly afraid for her life. Slam. I shut her door and kicked the lock, breaking it for good measure. I turned back to the balcony, looking down at the two cripples crawling toward the exit. Don't stop, I shouted down. Lick up every shard and drop of that soup before you leave. If there's a single speck of glass left, I'll break another bone. You got plenty left to play with. The holy plunder late night. I was sitting in the cramped, damp servant's room Caleb used to inhabit, taking inventory. I had a gold card swiped from Tyler. I saw his pin through the wallet with my vision, and a Patek Philippe watch I'd stripped off Julian. A bit tacky, but it would fund the herbs I needed to refine this body. Suddenly, a dull thud and a suppressed groan came from upstairs. It was time. The plot point. A rainy night, Victoria's toxin flares up, causing a migraine from hell. In the original story, Caleb would rush in, use his life force needles to soothe her, and then Julian would swoop in, take the credit, and claim his painkillers did the work. I toyed with a needle, a smirk playing on my lips. I had to save her. She was my portable battery, after all. Can't let the battery die. But how I saved her, that was up to me. I stood up, but I didn't grab a medical kit. I went into the bathroom. In the corner, I found the perfect tool, a brand new, bright red toilet plunger. The suction on this should be about right. I shouldered the plunger and strolled upstairs. The master bedroom door was ajar. Julian, despite his broken wrist, had crawled back and was trying to shove some pills into Victoria's mouth with his good hand. Victoria, honey, take the medicine. It'll stop the pain. Julian was grimacing in pain himself, still playing the hero. Victoria was thrashing on the bed, sweat soaking her hair. Get away. It's not working. I want to hit my head against the wall. Bang. I kicked the door open. Julian jumped, instinctively clutching his broken wrist. Caleb, what are you doing? I'm warning you. Get lost, you hack. I walked over and shoved him out of the way. Victoria heard my voice. It was like hearing a savior and a monster at the same time. Caleb, what are you? Please, get a doctor. I am a doctor. I stood by the bed, looking at her contorted face. The parasite was frantically darting around her brain, inducing phantom pain. Want to be cured? $1 million. Transfer it now. Not a penny less. I pulled out Tyler's phone and showed her the QR code for Venmo. Julian was aghast. You're asking for money? You're a nurse. I'm your nightmare. I snapped. You paying or not? If not, I'm leaving. Victoria's trembling hand grabbed her phone. Under the fear of death, money didn't matter. She unlocked it with her fingerprint and sent the transfer. Payment received. $1,000,000. Music to my ears. Excellent. Welcome to VIP service. I pocketed the phone and raised the plunger. Hold still. This is negative pressure toxin extraction. I channeled a burst of Shura force and slapped my palm on her forehead. Smack! The blow was loud and stunned her into silence. But the force surged into her skull, physically rattling the frost energy and dispersing it. It wasn't healing, it was a violent suppression. Then, I pressed the plunger onto the top of her head. Fwhip! Suck! I pulled with all my might. It looked ridiculous, but with the Shura force, the suction pulled the dispersed frost energy through her pores and into the rubber cup. Victoria felt like a sledgehammer had hit her head, followed by a scalp-tearing sensation. But then, the agony vanished. In its place was a throbbing, red circle on her forehead and a stinging scalp. Done. I pulled the plunger off with a satisfying pop. Victoria collapsed back, gasping, her eyes vacant. She touched the giant red welt on her forehead, her hair a bird's nest. How do you feel? I asked with a smile. Victoria looked at me, her terror deepening. This man had slapped her, used a toilet tool on her head. And yet, the pain was gone. Terror value plus 100. Another wave of warmth flooded my body. Caleb, she whimpered, shrinking into the corner of the bed. You have your money. Can you leave? Not yet. I turned to Julian. Dr. Vance, that wrist of yours looks a bit lopsided. As a doctor, my OCD won't allow it. Julian let out a shriek and scrambled out of the room. Madman. Murderer. The hospital run after dealing with the trash at home. I checked the time. No more mercy 10 p.m. In the original story, this was when Nurse Brenda, the wicked head nurse, was scheduled to pull the plug on my sister's ventilator. All because the original Caleb hadn't paid the bills. Lily. As I spoke the name, my heart gave a sharp, phantom throb. It was the original host's lingering obsession. His only family. His only red line. Don't worry, I whispered, pressing a hand to my chest. Since I have your body, your sister is my sister. Anyone who touches her dies. I grabbed Tyler's keys, went downstairs, and roared off in his flashy red Ferrari. Will I get arrested for car theft? Maybe, but they have to be able to walk to the police station first. The secret of the syphilitic Dean Silver Creek City General Hospital, ICU hallway. Still no payment? Is that loser dead? A shrill voice pierced the hallway. Nurse Brenda, a woman whose face was more foundation than skin, was barking at the junior nurses. Tell the techs to cut the oxygen for that brat. She's taking up space and missed her. Sterling has a relative waiting for a bed. But, Nurse Brenda, she'll die if we pull the plug, a young nurse whispered. Then she dies. Is a poor person's life even a life? Brenda rolled her eyes. That Thorne guy is just a dog for the Sterling family. You expect a dog to find $50,000. Clack. A stainless steel clipboard sliced through the air with a whistle. It slammed squarely into Brenda's heavily powdered face. Aff! She screamed as her nose bone shattered. Blood sprayed across her white uniform as she stumbled back and collapsed onto the floor. The hallway went dead silent. Everyone turned toward the elevators. I walked out, hands in my pockets. I'd parked the Ferrari illegally across the hospital entrance. Not my car, not my points. Who? Who hit me? Brenda wailed, clutching her face. Security? Where is security? I stood over her, looking down. Who are you calling a dog? Brenda peered through her fingers and recognized me. Her shock turned to rage. Thorne, you gutter rat. You dare hit me? You're finished. Your sister is dead today. Not even God can save her. She scrambled to get up and reach for the ward door. I raised my foot and stomped on the hand she used to reach for the handle. Crunch. The sound of finger bones pulverizing was loud in the quiet hall. If that mouth can't speak like a human, you don't need it. I leaned down, picked up the bloody clipboard, and smashed it across her face again. This is for Lily. Smack. This is for Caleb. Smack. And this is because I don't like your face. By the third hit, Brenda was unrecognizable, unable to even scream. The dean's secret stop. This is anarchy. A flurry of footsteps approached. The hospital director, Richard Miller, a balding, portly man, arrived with a squad of security guards. He pointed a finger at me with practiced righteousness. Who is this thug? Arrest him. Call the police. The guards closed in, batons drawn. I let go of the unconscious Brenda and turned to Miller. Mutation vision on. Lines of data flickered over the director's head. Name, Richard Miller. Diagnosis, severe kidney deficiency, stage 2 syphilis, active, fatty liver. Recent activity, accepted a $50,000 bribe from Julian Vance to arrange illegal clinical trials. Director Miller, quite the performance, I said, smiling a way that made the room turn cold. You know me, Miller stammered. I ignored the guards and began to read aloud. Director, your health is a mess. Chronic kidney failure is one thing, but stage 2 syphilis? TSK. Does this have anything to do with your new intern secretary? I saw her earlier. She looks a bit toxic herself. The gasps were audible. Nurses and doctors looked at each other, their gazes turning judgmental. Miller's face turned the color of a beet. You're lying. Slander. That's slander. Is it? Why don't we run a blood test right now? I stepped forward, looming over him. And that $50,000 kickback Julian gave you, is it still in your office safe? Combination 66-88-99. Miller's knees buckled. He looked at me as if I were a ghost. That was a secret only he and Julian shared. Who are you? I'm here to take my sister home. I pushed past the guards. No one moved. I walked into the ICU. A frail, pale little girl lay on the bed, covered in tubes. Lily, even in a coma, her brow was furrowed in pain. I walked over and gently began disconnecting the machines. Alarms began to blare. Miller shouted from the door, "You'll kill her. This is murder." I ignored him. I placed my hand over Lily's heart. A soft, pure stream of Shura internal force flowed into her. Lily, Big Brother's taking you home. Lily's eyelashes fluttered. Her eyes opened, clear but clouded by the shadow of death. When she saw me, a tiny spark of light returned. Caleb, you came. Her voice was a whisper. Yeah, I'm here. No one's going to hurt you anymore. I scooped her up. She was as light as a feather. I wrapped her in my jacket. As I walked out, I looked at Miller. Tomorrow morning, someone will be looking at your books. Pray that 50,000 turns into funeral money for yourself. With that, I walked out of that place of antiseptic and rot. Rotten Tomatoes was 1:00 a.m. when we got back to the Sterling Villa. Victoria and Julian weren't in the lounge. One was probably questioning her reality. The other was at a clinic getting his bones set. I carried Lily straight into the guest suite. The luxury one meant for VIPs. Caleb, is this a princess room? Lily whispered from the covers, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. Will we be kicked out? Seeing her so scared made my blood boil. This is our home now. I touched her head and pulled out my needle kit. Hold on, Lily. I'm going to fix you. The original Caleb had the skills, but he was too afraid of the Sterlings to use the aggressive treatments Lily needed. I didn't care. I used the 9 soul-seeking needles. After a few minutes, Lily coughed up a glob of dark, stagnant blood. Her face stayed pale, but her eyes were sharp. Caleb, I want a burger, she whispered. You got it. A big one tomorrow. The door slammed open. Victoria stood there, the red plunger mark still visible on her forehead, looking both ridiculous and furious. She smelled the blood and wrinkled her nose. Caleb, who gave you permission to bring this brat into the guest suite? Victoria hissed. This room is for important guests. She's covered in germs. If she ruins these sheets, you couldn't pay for them in a lifetime. Get her out of here and back to your hole. Lily shrank into my arms, trembling. I slowly turned around. I held a long, silver needle in my hand. Victoria. I said her name like a curse. This house is full of rot and bad energy. My sister has a pure solar constitution. Her being here is doing you a favor, exorcising the filth. You should be on your knees, thanking her. Victoria gasped. You've lost your mind. I'm calling the police for trespassing. Do it. I pointed to the bedside phone. Tell them how you use a human being as a battery for your parasite. And tell them about the kickbacks to Director Miller while you're at it. Victoria's face went white. She wasn't stupid. She didn't know how I knew about the parasite, but the fear of being exposed made her recoil. You just wait, she spat, but she didn't take a step closer. Tomorrow is my grandfather's memorial. If you aren't there to serve, I'll have her thrown onto the street. Slam. She fled. I looked down. Lily was looking up at me, her eyes shining with something new. Admiration. Caleb, you were so scary. Scared of me? No. Lily shook her head and gave me a sweet, tired smile. Caleb, that lady looks like a rotten tomato that needs to be squashed. I blinked, then burst out laughing. You're right, Lily. Remember this. I pinched her cheek. In this world, to deal with bad people, you have to be meaner, faster, and more shameless than they are. The stink bomb outside, thunder rolled. I knew this was just the beginning. The 10-ingredient stink soup. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the dining room. I was eating breakfast. In my left hand, a glass of milk. In my right, a medium-rare steak I'd sear myself. My table manners were barbaric. Lily sat next to me, eating a bowl of medicinal porridge I'd specially prepared. Her face was already looking rosier. Across the table, Victoria sat with her sunglasses on, poking at her food. Julian hadn't come back, likely crying to his mentor. Caleb, Victoria finally snapped, slamming her fork onto the plate. Who said you could eat at the table? Your staff. And that brat is making too much noise with her porridge. My head is pounding. I swallowed a piece of steak and wiped my mouth. Headache. I looked at the red welt on her forehead. That's just the water in your brain trying to evaporate. As for where I sit, I tapped the table. Get one thing straight. I saved your life yesterday. Market price for that is $5 million. You paid $1. The other $4 million? Consider it my rent and board. You're a thug. Victoria Svikiv. This is extortion. Call it what you want. I wiped Lily's chin. Lily looked up and said in a tiny, innocent voice, Caleb, this lady is so loud. She sounds like the lady at the farmer's market who tries to sell rotten cabbage. I snorted. Victoria's face turned green. The ice queen of Silver Creek City, being compared to a cabbage merchant by a 7-year-old. Get out, both of you, Victoria screamed. Butler, further things out. Silence. The butler had taken sick leave and was halfway to his hometown by now. Stop shouting. Save your breath. I stood up and walked behind Victoria, leaning over her chair. She froze. Victoria, do you know why I brought my sister here? This house has seen death. Lots of it. There are things here. Lily's pure energy keeps them away. If we leave, those things might find their way into your bed tonight. Stop. Shut up. Victoria was cruel, but she was superstitious. She shivered, shrinking into her chair. Ding. Female, lead terrorizing. Lux Siphon, energy plus 50. I felt the rush again. This woman really was a top-tier battery. The bioweapon Victoria stayed quiet for 2 days, mostly because she and Julian had moved to a hotel while professional cleaners disinfected the villa after the plunger incident. I used the time to treat Lily and scout the Sterling family's private greenhouse. There was a sun spirit herb there. In the original story, the protagonist used it to burn his own life away to save Victoria. In my hands, it would be the key to Lily's permanent cure. It wasn't quite ripe yet. I planted a few needles in its roots and injected a bit of Shura-Force to speed it up. 3 more days. 3 days later was Victoria's birthday, and her 5th anniversary of regaining sight. A major plot point. The Sterlings were throwing a massive gala. Julian planned to propose, and Caleb was supposed to be forced into a clown outfit to serve drinks, eventually being humiliated when Julian accidentally spilled wine on him. The day of the gala, Victoria and Julian returned to the villa. Caleb. Victoria was dressed in a white haute couture gown, looking like a swan. She handed me a bag. Inside was a ridiculous, oversized clown costume with a red nose and giant shoes. Tonight, the elite of Silver Creek will be here. You'll wear this and greet guests at the door. It's your punishment. If you do well, I might forget about the furniture you ruined. I looked at the clown's suit. Red nose, big shoes. Goo. I smiled. But it's not really my size. Just put on. Julian barked. He had a new cast on his arm and looked like a mummy. It's an honor for you, Fine. I took the bag upstairs. An hour later, the gala began. Luxury cars lined the driveway. The ballroom was a sea of jewels and silk. Victoria was on Julian's arm, soaking up the praise. Ms. Sterling is breathtaking. A perfect match for Dr. Vance. Julian was beaming. Suddenly, a commotion broke out at the entrance. Who is that guy? He's gorgeous. Is he a new tech CEO? I walked in. I wasn't wearing the clown's suit. I was in a perfectly tailored charcoal gray trench coat over a crisp white shirt, the top buttons undone. My hair was styled in a messy, dangerous sort of way. I bought the outfit with Tyler's credit card. Armani, $6,000. Is that Caleb? Victoria's eyes widened. She had never seen him stand straight. He had always been a shadow. Now he radiated a terrifying, effortless cool. Julian's face went dark. How dare he? That's Tyler's card. I ignored them, walked to the bar, and picked up a glass of red wine. Not bad. Needs to breathe a bit more, though. Caleb, Victoria hissed, rushing over. Who gave you permission to wear that? Where's the costume? You are staff. Staff. I looked down at her. Victoria, tonight I'm a guest. Your cousin paid for the outfit as a thank you for me realigning his leg. You're not going to be rude to a guest, are you? You are, Caleb. Julian approached, his eyes poisonous. He decided to stick to the plan. Since you're here, be useful. Pour a drink for Mr. Harrison here. Try not to be clumsy. As I walked past him, Julian stuck his foot out. The classic trip. The original Caleb would have fallen, spilling wine on a billionaire and starting a scandal. I didn't even look down. As my leg neared his, I didn't dodge. I stepped down hard. Crunch. The heel of my dress shoe slammed onto Julian's toes. F. Julian let out a strangled shriek. Simultaneously, my hand slipped. A full glass of vintage Cabernet flew in a perfect arc, drenching Julian's oily hair and white tuxedo. He looked like a victim in a slasher flick. The 3-minute man ballroom went silent. Julian was shaking, wiping wine from his eyes. You did that on purpose. I'll kill you. He raised his good hand to strike. I caught his wrist mid-air. Careful, Dr. Vance. I smiled, but my voice was loud enough for the whole room to hear. I noticed your balance is off. Your gait is shaky. Classic signs of early onset cerebellar atrophy. Bullshit, he roared. Not just that. I didn't let go. I moved my fingers to his pulse. Mutation vision on. Weak pulse, sallow complexion. TSK. Dr. Vance, you have severe kidney deficiency. Chronic prostatitis too. If I'm not mistaken, you've been suffering from frequent urgency and, let's say, a duration of less than 3 minutes. The room gasped. Men chuckled. Women looked away in disgust. You're lying. I'm a doctor. I'm in peak health. Really? I let go and pointed to his pocket. Then why do you have a bottle of Viagra in your jacket? Julian instinctively clutched his pocket, the universal sign of guilt. Enough. Victoria screamed. She felt the humiliation as if it were her own. Caleb, get out. Security, throw him out. You sure you want me to leave, Victoria? I looked at her calmly. If someone drops dead, don't come begging me to come back. Beg you? You're a nurse. Victoria is native. We have the best doctors in the city here. Fine. I shrugged and tossed my empty glass onto a waiter's tray. I'm out. I turned and walked toward the door. I started the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Thud. A heavy sound hit the floor behind me. Screams erupted. Mr. Harrison. Bill. Are you okay? Call 911. Dr. Vance. Help him. I didn't stop. I just smirked. Right on cue, Bill Harrison, the richest man in Silver Creek, had just had a massive heart attack. The miracle of the ballroom was chaos. Bill Harrison was on the floor, his face purple, clutching his chest. Julian rushed over, wine still dripping from his nose. This was his chance to be a hero. Clear the way. Give him air. Julian shouted, trying to look professional. It's a myocardial infarction. Get my emergency kit. He fumbled with some nitroglycerin and started chest compressions. 1, 2, 3. A minute passed. Harrison's face turned from purple to black. He stopped breathing. What's happening? Why isn't he responding? Julian panicked. Adrenaline. Give me an EpiPen. His hand was shaking so hard he couldn't even find a vein. Move over, amateur. The voice cut through the panic. I was standing in the center of the crowd. Caleb, you're still here. Victoria was frantic. Don't make this worse. Worse. I shoved Victoria aside. I kicked Julian's ass, literally. Get out of here. Julian tumbled away as I knelt by Harrison. He was halfway into the grave. Go ahead, play God. Julian spat, scrambling up. If he dies, it's on your hands. I ignored him. 3 silver needles appeared in my hand. Gustget needle technique. Resuscitation. First needle, philtrum. Second needle, inner gate. Third needle, solar plexus. I moved like lightning, each needle carrying a spark of Shura force. Gasp. As the third needle hit, Harrison's body arched. He let out a massive, ragged breath. He's alive. He's breathing. Harrison's color returned instantly. His eyes fluttered open. What? What happened? I pulled the needles and stood up. Nothing much, Bill. The Reaper tried to collect, but I didn't sign the paperwork. Harrison was weak, but lucid. He saw Julian holding a shaking syringe and saw me standing there, calm as a monk. He knew who saved him. He grabbed a checkbook from his assistant. A gift. For my life. He whispered, scribbling a number. I took the check. $10 million. Not bad. Sure, a medical clinic. I flicked the check, the sound crisp in the silent room. I turned to the guests, then to the pale Victoria and Julian. Everyone, let me introduce myself. I am Caleb Thornton. As of today, I'm no longer a nurse. I pointed at Victoria. I've just fired my employers for wage theft, abuse, and being medical frauds. If any of you have an ailment, rare diseases, or personal issues, I glanced at Julian's crotch. Come find me. I don't represent the Sterlings. I represent the Shura Clinic. You. Victoria was trembling so hard she couldn't speak. The dog she thought she owned had just slapped her in front of the world and declared his independence. More importantly, I felt a surge of warmth in my core. Ding! Female lead in extreme panic. Luck siphon. Solar body upgrade. 5%. I gave Victoria a brilliant smile. Don't get too angry, Ms. Sterling. It's bad for the liver. Causes wrinkles. Oh, and your eyes? They're clear now, but keep glaring at me like that. And you might just go blind for real. I walked out of the Sterling Villa with a $10 million check and the awe of the city's elite following me. The game was finally getting interesting. The truth of the Toxin after the gala. The Sterling Villa fell into a strange, heavy silence. Julian and Tyler were terrified. I held too much dirt on them. One night, Victoria did the unthinkable. She invited me to dinner. The table was filled with delicacies and a bottle of vintage Lafite. Caleb, Julian said, his face still covered in bandages. He forced a smile. We were wrong before. We're family. Let's put the past behind us. Drink with us. Tyler added, yeah, Caleb. I was young and dumb. This wine has been in the cellar for a decade. Try it. I looked at the wine. Through my vision, it glowed with a faint, sickly blue light. A neurotoxin. It would paralyze the central nervous system, turning a man into a living vegetable, a blood bag they could keep in the basement and drain for Victoria's parasite. Cruel. I looked at Victoria. She was elegantly cutting her steak, a cold smirk hidden behind her shades. She wasn't just a witness. She was the architect. Scared to drink? Victoria mocked. Worried about poison? You're getting paranoid, Caleb. Not at all. I picked up the glass, looking moved. A gift from a CEO? I'd drink it, even if it were my last. As I raised the glass, I accidentally dropped my fork. Oops. I bent down to pick it up. In that split second, my left hand moved with the speed of Cobra. I flicked a powder, a mix of a super laxative and a hallucinogenic mushroom extract, into Julian and Tyler's glasses. At the same time, I swapped my glass with Julian's. Sur la technique, shadow swap. When I sat back up, everything looked the same. Cheers! I downed the wine. Julian and Tyler, seeing me drink, laughed and drained their glasses. Good wine. Julian smirked. From now on, Caleb, we're going to get along very well. I count on it. I started my mental clock. 3, 2, 1. The naked sprinters, the drugs took 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, Julian and Tyler talked about how I'd have a great future at Sterling Group. Then, Julian stopped mid-sentence. His eyes glazed over. His face turned bright red. He pointed at the roast chicken on the table and screamed, "A dragon! I must slay the dragon!" Tyler jumped up next. He ripped off his tie and stood on his chair, arms wide. "I am an eagle. I'm flying to the moon." Victoria jumped. "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. The sound of 100 storms erupted from their stomachs. My laxative was 100 times stronger than anything over the counter. I'm taking off. The thrusters are loose. Julian's face was a mask of hallucinogenic joy and gastrointestinal agony. What followed was a masterpiece. Julian and Tyler tore off their clothes and sprinted into the garden. Hot. Too hot. Get it off. They ran like two pale, fleshy streaks across the manicured lawn. I'm a superhero. Pew, pew. Julian, completely naked, struck a pose against a tree, while a yellow stream erupted from his backside. I'm a bird. I can fly. Tyler climbed the fountain and prepared to jump. The staff watched in horror, peering through their fingers. Victoria stood at the window, shaking with rage. Caleb, what is this? What did you do? I sat on the sofa, feet up, recording the whole thing on my phone. Me? They poured the wine, Victoria. They probably just had a lot of repressed energy. Or bad shrimp. I hit send. To the Sterling Group employee chat. To the Silver Creek elite group. To TikTok. Title shock. Sterling Group executives go streaking. Is it stress or a loss of humanity? I'm going to bed, Victoria. This is too much for me to handle. I scooped up Lily and went upstairs, humming a tune. Below us, the firing sounds of Julian and Tyler's bowels continued into the night. The midnight contract time flew. The night of the storm finally arrived. This was the peak of the original story. The night the sun spirit herb ripened, and the night Victoria's toxin would finally kill her. Outside, the storm was apocalyptic. Lightning fractured the sky. Victoria's room echoed with screams. My head. It's so cold. Help me. This flare-up was different. The parasite felt the shift in the environment and was trying to consume its host. Julian and Tyler were still in the hospital, mostly from social death and dehydration, so she was alone. I sat in my room, cleaning my needles. I'd set up a soundproof barrier around Lily's room so she wouldn't wake up. It's time. I grabbed a folder and walked out. I opened Victoria's door. A wave of freezing air hit me. The room was so cold, there was frost on the headboard. Victoria was curled into a ball, her eyebrows white with ice. Save me, please. I'll give you anything. I sat in a chair by the bed. You look like you're having a rough night, CEO. Victoria opened her eyes. Even though she was blind, she looked toward my voice. Caleb, help me. You saved me before. I can't, I said, tossing the folder onto her pillow. But the price has gone up. The dragon's toll money. I'll give you whatever you want. She reached for the folder. It's not just money. I turned on my phone's flashlight, illuminating the document. This is a transfer of 51% of Sterling Group. Also, a signed confession stating that I saved your life 5 years ago, not Julian. And an admission that you've been abusing me for years. You're a monster. Victoria gasped. The company is my life. Never. Then die. I lean back. In 5 minutes, the frost hits your heart. Not even a god can save you then. How does it feel? Like needles in your brain? Aakak, Victoria screamed, her body arching like a bow. The fear of death broke her. I'll sign. Just stop the pain. I put the pen in her hand and guided her fingers. She signed and thumbprinted the document. I tucked it into my jacket. Good. Now that you're technically my employee, I can't let you die. The toad, treatment saver? Sure. But I wasn't going to use the noble sacrifice method from the book. I pulled out a glass jar. Inside was a neon green, warty toad. A poison fire toad. Victoria, this is going to be a bit intense. I didn't feed her the toad, obviously. I squeezed 3 drops of its toxic secretions into her mouth. MMPH. Her eyes bulged. It tasted like liquid fire. Then the needles. Chira sous le piercing technique. I didn't take her clothes off. I just drove the needles through the silk. Head, core, feet. It was a violent counterattack. I used the toad's fire toxin and my Shura force to ram through the frost like a bulldozer. Boom! Victoria's body jerked, as if an explosion had gone off inside her. Splat! She vomited a glob of black, frozen blood. The pain was excruciating, like being fried and then frozen. But it worked. The frost vanished. Her optic nerves, battered by the thermal shock, suddenly snapped into focus. I pulled the needles. Congratulations. You're alive. And your eyes? You'll be seeing perfectly by morning. I didn't tell her the side effect. If she ever felt a murderous intent toward me, the toad toxin would flare up, making her feel like 10,000 ants were eating her heart. My little insurance policy. I walked out. The real show was just beginning. The scouring of the garden, the rain was pouring. I walked to the Sterling Back Mountain Garden. It was a restricted area, guarded by 12 men. They rushed me. Stop. Who is? I waved my hand. A cloud of sleep dust drifted through the rain. 10 seconds later, 12 guards were sleeping in the mud. I pushed open the greenhouse doors. The smell of herbs was intoxicating. In the center, the sun spirit herb was glowing like a coal. I dug it up carefully and put it in a jade box. I looked around. Century-old ginseng, rare mushrooms, sacred lotuses. The Sterling family's wealth was all here. No sense leaving this for them to ruin. I pulled out a massive storage bag. Rip it up. All of it. I went through that garden like a plague of locusts. I took the herbs, the roots, even 3 layers of the nutrient-rich soil. 30 minutes later, the world-famous Sterling Medical Garden was a barren mud pit. I left a note on the central rock. Thanks for the gift. You're a real pal. Shura Clinic. The battery is leaking morning. The rain had stopped. Victoria woke up to a world of color. The chandelier, the black blood on her sheets. She could see. The joy lasted 10 seconds. Then the memories hit. Caleb, the contract, the toad, the needles. Caleb, I'll kill you. AGH. As soon as the murderous thought formed, her heart seized. She collapsed, sweating. What? What is this? She tried to think of killing me again. F. The pain was worse. She realized she couldn't even hate me without dying. She stumbled downstairs. The villa was empty. Caleb and Lily were gone. A guard ran in. Ms. Sterling. The garden. It's. She rushed to the back mountain. Seeing the mud pit and the note, she vomited another mouthful of blood. Caleb, I will tear you to pieces. F. She hit the ground, clutching her chest, trapped in her own body. The wrong kidnapping, the confrontation was inevitable. That afternoon, Victoria arrived at my new mansion, bought with Tyler's card, with a squad of new guards. I was having tea while Lily played on a swing. Caleb, you thief. Give back my herbs. Give back the contract. Victoria screamed. I sipped my tea. CEO, congrats on the eyesight. Shame about the brain, though. Seize him. Before they could move, I snapped my fingers. The mansion door opened, and a man was thrown out, tied up with a smelly sock in his mouth. Julian Vance. He tried to run, but I caught him. Before you do anything, Victoria, watch this. I turned on a giant outdoor TV. The truth revealed first video. Julian swapping high-end ingredients for fakes in the Sterling pharmacy. Second video. Julian and Tyler in a bar, plotting to poison Victoria and split the inheritance after she died. Third, a recording. Julian's voice. The blind bitch thinks I'm her hero? Caleb Thorne was the one who pulled her from the wreck 5 years ago. I just took the credit. She's so stupid she thinks my cologne is medicinal. Once I have the money, I'm dumping her for a model. The silence was deafening. Victoria's face went from rage to shock, then to a ghostly white. Her hero, her white knight, was a parasite who wanted her dead, and the dog she had kicked was the one who had saved her life. No, it can't be. I walked up to her and stepped on Julian's back. Victoria, you thought you were playing a slaughterhouse game? You thought you were the one growing the parasite. You were the one in the jar. Julian was growing you. Tyler was growing you. Even, I was growing you. You think you can see now because your plan worked? No, you see because I let you see. I saved you not for gratitude, but so you could look at this piece of trash. I pointed at Julian and realized that the man you chose is garbage, and the man you threw away is a god you can never, ever reach again. I waved my hand. A gust of wind blew Victoria and her guards out the gate. Get out. Take your trash with you. The gate slammed shut. Victoria's sobbing echoed from the street. I turned back to Lily. Lily, what do you want for dinner? Burgers. Let's get burgers. To celebrate a successful harvest. The living mannequin time is the best butcher, especially when you have a negative toxin array on your side. A month had passed. Two things happened in Silver Creek. First, Thorne Pharmaceuticals launched. Using the herbs from the Sterling garden, I made pills that actually worked. The elite were lining up for blocks. I was the new king of the city. Second, the Sterling group collapsed. Between the streaking scandal and the fraud, their stock went into the toilet. I saw Victoria on the news. She looked decades older. Wrinkles, gray hair, sallow skin. Every time she felt resentment toward me, the toxin ate a bit of her life. She was a leaking battery. I looked in the mirror. I looked like a god. My constitution was nearly perfected. Then, the final boss of the original novel surfaced. Julian. He'd vanished after I threw him out. He called me from a burner phone. Caleb, you think you won? I've lost everything because of you. If I'm going down, I'm taking your sister with me. I frowned. Dr. Vance? Still streaking. Shut up. I have her. The abandoned factory on the west side. Come alone or she dies. I looked at Lily. She was sitting right next to me, hacking into the FBI database for fun. Lily, did you get kidnapped? Lily looked up. No, I'm right here. We both looked at the phone. I realized the original plot had a kidnapped sister scene, but Lily had been home with me. So who did Julian grab? Probably Victoria's younger cousin, who looked a bit like Lily. The idiot grabbed the wrong kid. I shook my head. Can we go? Lily asked. I want to see you beat up the bad man. Even if he had the wrong kid, he'd threaten my sister. That was the red line. The 365 needles, the factory was a rusted hellscape. Julian was on a platform, a rusty knife to a little girl's throat. She was crying. It was definitely the Sterling cousin. Caleb, stop right there. One more step and she's dead. Julian was a wreck. Filthy, crazed eyes. Kneel. Beg. Cut off your own hand. I stood 10 feet away. Julian, look at the kid. Is that my sister? Julian blinked, looked at the girl, then back at me. I have a photo. It's her. You really need glasses. I pulled out 3 7-inch gold needles. But that's not your biggest mistake. Your mistake was thinking you could use family to threaten Ashura. I vanished. The end of the game, what? Julian felt his wrist explode in pain as I crushed the bone. The knife clattered away. I kicked him into a steel railing. I untied the girl and put her into a deep sleep so she wouldn't have nightmares. Then I walked to Julian. Please, Caleb, brother, I have money. Shoo. I put a finger in my lips. Class is in session. Doctor, did you know there are 365 pressure points on the human body? There's a technique called soul scouring. It doesn't heal. It amplifies pain. 1 needle, 10 times sensitivity. 9 needles, 1,000 times. Julian screamed as the first needle went in. By the 9th, he couldn't even make a sound. I'd paralyzed his vocal cords. His muscles pulsed like waves. Every breath of air felt like 1,000 knives. I'm not a murderer, Julian. I'm a doctor. I pulled out a fixing paste. This will harden your muscles and bones in this exact position. You're going to be the centerpiece of my clinic, the living anatomical mannequin. You'll feel everything, every second, forever. A warning to anyone who thinks about touching my family. The beggar at the gate, the Sterlings were gone. Tyler was in prison. Victoria was broke, her assets seized. A month later, I was walking out of my clinic with Lily. A black Rolls Royce was waiting for us. Caleb, hurry up. I want lobster. Lily cheered. A filthy, stinking figure crawled out of the bushes and grabbed my pant leg. Caleb, please, save me. It was a beggar. Skin covered in sores, hair a matted mess. But those eyes, it was Victoria. I was wrong. I love you. Please, take me back. I'll be your maid. I'll scrub the floors. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. I pulled out a white handkerchief and wiped the spot on my pants where she touched me. I dropped the cloth in the mud. Victoria, remember what I said? We're even. No. Caleb, you love me. That was a different guy. I looked at her. My vision showed she had zero luck left. She was a dead battery. I do need a janitor. Her eyes lit up. I'll do it. But I looked her up and down. You're too dirty, inside and out. Having you in my clinic would spoil the air for my patients. Those words, too dirty, with a final blow. Victoria froze. I got into the car. Who was that, Caleb? Lily asked. Nobody, Lily. Just an extra who forgot her lines. The sovereign of medicine 5 years later. Thorn Tower, the tallest building in the city. I was the god of medicine. I had wealth, power, and a sister who was the world's top hacker. Ding. Original plot destroyed. Host rating, SSS. Congratulations. You have completed the Slaughterhouse CEO world. The system is unbinding. Enjoy your life of chaos. I mean greatness. I smiled and poured a glass of wine. Simp? Not in this life. Caleb. Lily burst in, now a young woman. A billionaire from Dubai wants to pay $1 billion for a hair growth serum. $1 billion. I laughed. Tell him he needs to throw in an oil field. My medicine is top shelf. On it, I looked out at the city. There was no more angst, no more noble sacrifice. Just a good life and a world that knew exactly who was in charge. Story complete.